Hey guys, it's Stacy with Chapter 6, and today we'll be going over the Madison Avery Trilogy. This series is by Kim Harrison. The 3 books in the trilogy are Once Dead, Twice Shy, Early to Death, Early to Rise, Something Deadly This Way Comes. Like, if you notice, there was a cover change halfway in the series. I really did like the pastel color scheme that was going on with the script, and everything on the side was changed, so I don't like that they changed in the middle of the series. This trilogy is about a girl named Madison Avery, and on her prom night, she is killed by a Dark Reaper. She then steals the amulet that the Dark Reaper has. This allows her to keep a form of some kind of body. She's kind of stuck in between the living and the dead world. Madison then gets the help of her guardian angel, and a Light Reaper has decided to start helping her, one of the good guys. Madison is now stuck on Earth, and she has to deal with now becoming a ghost with a body. So I'm going to go ahead and give you my thoughts on the series as a whole, and then I'll go ahead and play to read or not to read, so if you don't want to get spoiled, and then I'll go into each individual book. So my thoughts on this series is, I'm very conflicted about this series because when I'm reading this series, I feel like I like it, that it's decent, that things are happening, it's not hard to pick the books up, they're not hard to get through, but as soon as I put it down, you forget all of it, basically, and it has no staying power, and that to me is accredited to the writing. The writing is not bad to the point where it sticks out and you're like, oh, this is really, really bad writing, I should never read this. But there's no good moments either, so it tends to make me forget everything. The characters, the plot, nothing really stays with you. Time I think about my top books or just discussing anything that has to do with books, this series never comes to mind when I'm doing that because I just forget it. It gets thrown back to the back of my mind and I don't really ever want to dig it back up again. So personally, I would not recommend this series. I think it would be very good for like a preteen. I think a preteen would love this series. I feel like it's a chopped up series, like elements in other books and other YA books that were really popular were just kind of meshed together in this one. Like, it didn't really have anything that stood out. The concept was a little unique, but not unique enough to where you're running out to get the next book in the series. So much in the gray area that it's just not worth the time or the money, I don't personally think. I'm going to go ahead and play to read or not to read with you guys. This is only 3 questions. So the first question is, do you like an okay writing style? No, I don't. Do you like a new twist on an old concept? Do you like okay series? No. So for me, I got 2 no's, 1 yes, so obviously this series would not have been for me. I wanted to mention real quick that Kim Harrison does have an adult series as well. It's called the Hollow series, and I think as of right now, there's 12 books in that series. I don't know if the series goes further than that, including book 0, which comes before the book that I have bought, which is, this is number 1, it's Dead Witch Walking. And even though I didn't have the best experience with the Madison Trilogy, I am really looking forward to this series. What has happened is there's all the mythical creatures you can think about. Something happens to technology and it's not there anymore, and a virus hits the human race and kills most of them. So then all these mythical creatures have kind of come up to take power over the human race. And then Rachel, the main character, she is a bounty hunter, and then she has to go out and hunt rogue vampires, werewolves, things of that nature. With the Madison Trilogy, I just feel like it wasn't really her forte. You can kind of feel it when you're reading it, that it wasn't really something that she was used to writing about. I've heard a lot of good things about her Hollow's adult series. I don't want to completely bash Kim Harrison because I don't feel like she's a bad author. I feel like she was a little out of her league with her YA series. So if you have not read this series or this trilogy and you're still curious about it, then go ahead and watch this part of the video. I'm just going to be talking about this one lately like I do in a regular review. So then a synopsis I said in the very beginning of the video holds true to this one. That's basically the wrap up of the synopsis for this first book. Now, after reading this first book, I was very new to YA and the YA world, so I remember really enjoying it. The thing that struck me the most about this first book was the concept. I really liked the concept of the Light and the Dark Reapers and the different roles that they played in human lives. I really liked that concept, and I thought that the series was really going to be a good one because it was a twist on angels, or angel type characters, that was different from other angel books that I have read at the time. I do remember thinking Madison was okay. I thought she was just a typical teenage kind of girl. She is more punk rock than your other typical YA characters, and I do really remember liking that. But as for the other characters, none of them really stood out. The writing didn't really stand out either. For me, I was just really loving the concept at this point in the story and was looking forward to getting on to the rest of the series because I thought it was going to be a real good one. So moving on to the second book in the series, which is Early to Death, Early to Rise. If you haven't read book 1 in the series, then don't watch this part of the review. because you will be spoiled on book 1. But this one, almost completely every detail of it I can't remember. Even if it's been a long time since I've read a book, I can usually still remember the main characters and the plot. The plot is something I usually always remember. There's books that I haven't read that have been sitting on my shelves for years and I still know the plot of every single one of them. And this one I actually read and experienced, and I vaguely remember. That's how forgettable this series is. What I can remember in this one, Madison is trying really hard to fit in at school. The Reaper who killed her, I remember she has to go after, and I think that's what the main plot of the book is. And Madison, now that she has that amulet from the Reaper who tried to kill her, she now is the Dark Timekeeper, and she has to deal with that. My thoughts on this is, again, when I was reading it, I really remember liking it. I really remember liking the concept mostly and how the roles are switched. You kind of have a moral dilemma to kind of ask yourself what is more precious, the human soul or the human life. And that's kind of something that Madison has to deal with in the story. And I really like that concept. I just think that it could have gone deeper. You could have seen more of the struggle between everyone deciding between these two elements instead of just seeing Madison have to deal with it. And she didn't even really deal with it that deeply, because I feel like if she did, I would have remembered it a lot more. And I feel like the characters also went off a little bit. Madison got a little annoying, got a little too girly teenage-ish. The other characters, where they were there, they were likable, but they weren't really likable, if you know what I mean, if that makes any sense. This was at the beginning of my booktube career as well, and I remember thinking, if I'm going to be booktubing, I need to be able to remember details more. And I was kind of beating myself up that as soon as I put the book down and Jesse would ask me a question about it, because we were in the same spot in the series, I wouldn't remember anything about it. And I remember beating myself up over that because it had no staying power. And then it wasn't until later that I realized it was because of the lack of good writing. At this point, I was very frustrated with the series, and I was not looking forward to getting the last one because I thought the fault of the series was coming from myself as the reader versus the writing, if that makes sense. I don't know if anybody else has ever beat themselves up over a book before, but I usually do. Moving on to the last book in this trilogy, which is Something Deadly This Way Comes. If you have not read book 1 and 2, do not watch this part of this review because you will be spoiled. In this one, Madison is accepted her role as the Dark Timekeeper. She has her rogue army of angels that are trying to do things her way, which is giving people a choice. She's trying to educate the person who has the bad destiny and try to see if they can make a better choice if they know all the facts. That's what she believes in. She has people who support her because they're her friend, and then she has other people who support her because they really do believe in her, and then she has people who are just all out completely against her. That's all that really happens plot-wise in it. I don't want to give too much more than away. My feelings on this one is the ending to the series that I was expecting. The plot, I don't feel made much more movement at this point in the series, especially being the last book in the series. It should have been more high pace than the other two. But it wasn't. It was more them just kind of running around, trying to prove Madison right. And as for Madison herself, she got really annoying in this one. She was a punk rock, Dark Reaper, kick butt kind of girl like she was in the first one. She just kind of felt whiny and irresponsible. Even though it's a very short book, it kind of took me a while to get through it just because I was over it. I didn't feel like the series had much more to give. This is Stacy with Chapter Chicks, and I hope you guys enjoyed the review. Bye, guys.